Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Irons review show with myself and Sloth today. After that Crystal Palace draw, 1-1 Sloth after taking the lead again, kind of conceding those 3 points, coming away with 1 point, so didn't lose the match, but it should have been free. Against a weakened Palace side, it definitely should have been free. And it looks like the same kind of patterns are cropping up again and again and again and again. But we're going to get into it. And yeah, hopefully more people will join the stream as we go through the live stream and people can get involved as well. So make sure to leave your comments for thoughts on the game as well. So, Sloth, off the bat, what are your summary feelings off the back of that before we kind of dissect it in detail? Just your initial thoughts on how the game kind of panned out and, the approach we took against a weakened Crystal Palace side.
Just really disappointed, to be honest. It was a game where we never really created anything of note. I think apart from the goal, we just looked so lackluster. Palace, again, they much like us didn't offer much. They looked more likely to score at times, but they didn't really create much. There wasn't really much work in our defence, and it was the same for us. All of our attacks or possession was pretty meaningless when it didn't really work. Any of the Palace keeper had the easiest day probably have in a long time. It was really disappointing, and for me, I think looking at Bowen just playing the full game pretty much, and he's just come back from a knee injury. It's baffling to me that Moyes didn't think, well, I'll take him off, I'll give him a bit of a rest, and I'll put Corner on, who, is coming off the back of a midweek cameo appearance where he set up a goal. Why would you not risk it? Why would you not play him for 20 minutes? And again, just give Bowen a break. So it's disappointment and frustration, I think, at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot to go through on this live stream. So anyone that's joining, welcome. Make sure to leave your comments on the situation with the match against Crystal Palace, and we'll be sure to read those out and engage. But let's go through the lineup to start with. It was pretty much as we expected, other than Zuma. Obviously, it's come out since what happened with him, why he wasn't in the squad. So Mavropanos came in, another one we will touch on very shortly. And then we saw that front four of Kudus, Souček playing a bit further, almost as a second striker. Lucas Paqueta out on the left-hand side, and Jared Bowen back in at striker after his injury doubts as well. So it was kind of to be expected, other than Bowen maybe coming in with his late fitness test. We knew that the midfield three would probably stay the same with Souček, Ward-Prowse and Alvarez. And yeah, Paqueta's kind of been shoehorned to the left, which again, we're going to touch on in more detail. But what did you make of the kind of opening 10, 15 minutes? I know we got the goal around 13 minutes. So our initial approach to the game, were you quite happy with that? Or was it kind of, meh, same old, same old?
Meh. I think Palace looked pretty sharp for the first 10 or so. They were the better or more likely to score, in my opinion. We kind of flipped that on its head at the 13-minute mark, but I think we started quite poorly. And one of the things that, it led to the eventual calamity of the goal, but we keep trying to pass along the back line, and it's not because we don't have options going like in front of us, but we just seem to trying to stack up possession, and it's meaningless when you're not actually doing anything with it. You're just inviting pressure on. We may have been trying to bring Crystal Palace further forward and to try and get them to press us, but again, it's irrelevant when if what you're doing is giving away chances, or you're just missing the opportunity to play it forward. And we have the players to be able to pick a 40-yard pass, to be able to beat a man, but we just didn't do that. We were it was hospital football at times, and I find it quite, I just find it disappointing. It's such a boring result, and it's a very disappointing one.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think what I've noticed as well, now we're playing Souček almost as the advanced midfielder, at least for a lot of the game yesterday, especially in the first half. We're kind of limited to what we can do in terms of how we build up. And, like you mentioned there, we do try and play out from the back against someone like Crystal Palace who will let us have the ball, to be honest. They won't really press too high on us. And we either, play it between centre backs and Alvarez will drop in. But then that's kind of it. Ward-Prowse will try and sometimes come deeper and collect the ball, and it's actually where our goal came from when he picked the ball up in midfield. But then you've got Lucas Paqueta, who's playing out on the left, so he's not in there, and he has to kind of drift inside if we are going to do that. And then you're relying on Emerson to go up and down for 90 minutes and kind of act as a left wing and a left back, which isn't sustainable. So I think when we have the ball in kind of the centre back area or DM area with Alvarez, we're very limited to either go to a right back or left back or look for a big switch, which we do countless times. And it does work on occasions because Aged can do it, Ward-Prowse can do it. And it does work. It does catch the opposition out of shape. But that's kind of really it. Our centre play is really poor. We just because we don't have the midfielder in there to do it. We don't have that physical person to come and collect the ball between the lines. And if it is someone that's going to do it, and we saw that in the first half, it's Kudus. It's Kudus coming off the line to do that. So we don't really have that natural 8 who's going to roam between or in more of a number 10, especially when Lucas Paqueta's playing out on the left. So it limits what we can do. But let's talk about the goal. Obviously, we took the lead pretty early on, 13 minutes in. Again, excellent play from Kudus to start things off in the build-up. He plays it out wide to the left. Comes to Ward-Prowse, who plays an excellent ball. As we said, that early switch is something we've done really effectively this year, and I think that's just because it's one of our only options, to be honest, of how we play. But Kufal did really well to cushion it back to Kudus, who followed his run into the box, and poor keeping, but good finish at the same time. Got his effort on target, made him work, and yeah, we took the lead. And were you confident from that point on, or was it kind of you kind of expected the lull, or the hesitancy to go out and get a second goal?
I've always expected us to kind of, at least concede a goal. I don't feel that we're solid at the back. And one of the frustrating things is, Zuma was out. We hope, we're glad to hear that his family are safe. And, sorry to hear about the incident that happened, obviously, with the robbery. But
yeah,
there's no solidity in this defense at the moment, even with Zuma. And that's a worrying thing. He last season, he was head and shoulders above the rest of our defenders, in my opinion. And I just feel like this season, everyone has an error in them. And I've got to say that Coufal, I think he was one of the kind of better players yesterday. He kept offering an option on that right-hand side. He kept offering someone to switch the play out to him, but he just wasn't picked up a lot of the time. And his delivery is very inconsistent. It's poor at times. His link-up play and his options, him being able to be found by a long-range pass or even just give an outlet to someone like Mavropanos, he always does it. And a lot of the time we just play it behind a defender, we play it behind a midfielder, and we instantly put ourselves on the back foot. The goal was good, and it was one of the few times that we did actually utilise Coufal in that area.
Yeah.
But again, I think this midfield is a big problem because we have Alvarez who can, who breaks up the play. I thought he was quite poor yesterday. I don't think it was one of his better games.
Agreed.
But James Prowse and Souček are such a difficult balancing act because I'm not one of the people who kind of, jumped onto Souček last year and was hounding him. I've always said it. He is a blunt instrument. He will get you goals and he will get you double figures if you keep providing him with service. That's one of the great things about Souček. However, he is very limited in what he can do. His first touch is never going to be up there with someone like Kudus. His ability on the ball is not going to be that of giving you a step over and beating a man, or giving you a turn and creating space. He might be able to outmuscle someone and therefore create space. But the likelihood is these days he's going to get punished for it, because he's probably going to have his lanky arms out or something like that. It's very difficult to have a midfield of including both those players, because for me, James Ward-Prowse, he runs about a lot, but he doesn't offer that player who can actually progress the ball forward in anything other than passing. He's not going to beat a man for pace, or his delivery.
You're right. We don't have that right now. You know, you look at that midfield three of Souček, and again, Souček was at times yesterday playing almost as a second striker behind Bowen. He was very high up, and then you've got Alvarez, who again, not the most progressive player at all. You know, he'll be very safe on possession,
that's not his
but
fault.
it's not his game, and it's not what his responsibility should be. And then you've got Ward-Prowse again, who is someone that isn't really going to drive through the midfield. He isn't really going to be making those runs in behind and you know, offering something a little bit different between the gaps, because to be honest, watching that first half back, the gaps were there. You know, Kudus was one player trying to do it, and he did do it on a few occasions, especially in that first half. And, you know, it was his spark that got us the goal, you know, and that's the issue we're having at the moment. And, you know, it was a nice goal. It was a really nice worked goal with how we switched to play early. But my main concern is the rest of the match, you know, past that, after going 1-0 up, it's kind of, you know, you go back into that block, you go back and, you know, you read Moyes' post-match comments of, you know, once we're ahead, it's, you know, we don't want to lose in that position. You know, we've got something to hold on to. They're not like positive words. They're not things in your head where you instantly think to, you know, go again. You know, the old cliche of 0-0, we go again, boys. Like when you're 1-0 up in a match, we don't have that mindset at all. So it almost limits how we play. And, you know, again, from a structural point of view, I think we're going to struggle if we persist with Ward-Prowse, Souček, and Alvarez. And I think he's persisting with that at the moment because that's what's been bailing us out. You know, if Ward-Prowse isn't on the pitch, we don't have as good set pieces. If Souček isn't on the pitch, he isn't there to bail us out in the 90th minute, whether it be from a set piece or what he's been doing in the Premier League and Europe with his late goals. So it's hard to drop them in that moment. And as the game progressed, as we'll get into the second half in a minute, but you know, we were reluctant to make those changes. And I think that was what was playing on Moyes' mind. You know, he didn't want to bring someone in who could jeopardize what's something that's, you know, worked in 2 or 3 times before. So it's difficult.
I find that such a sort of falsity. It's just, you know, you've seen what the changes can do midweek. You've seen that with Cornet. You know, he's a player who is also very versatile and defensive minded as well. You know, he can play left wing back, he can play that left back spot, and he has done that, you know, through large spates of his career. So I just kind of think Paqueta was very poor.
Yeah,
he was really poor. He gave the ball away quite a lot, and he didn't really look that interested in getting it back.
No,
I think that was his worst game of the season, to be honest. And
yeah,
if I'm Moyes, I'd be thinking, right, he's not working at left wing, which he doesn't. You know, he works because he's a quality player and he creates there, but he doesn't work at left wing because it's shoehorning these players into positions. Someone like Cornet, for the last 20 minutes of that game, just let him run at Crystal Palace. You got Kudus, Bowen, and Cornet. Just take Paqueta off, or, you know, switch it up. Take James Prowse off. Let Cornet go into the left wing spot. Play Paqueta in the centre, because you know he's going to throw himself about and put his foot in for a challenge. But it just simply wasn't good enough in terms of that midfield dynamic. If we want someone that will solve that issue, we need to go out and get someone like an Onana of Everton, because that sort of error-prone defence is so exposed by the large gaps between Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, and Souček, but also the lack of physicality in Ward-Prowse. It's, you know, Look, he is a fantastic deliverer of a dead ball. I still kind of stand by the fact that he probably won't score a free kick for us, because I'm just convinced that there's a curse that will immediately end that whenever someone joins West Ham. It doesn't matter how good they are. I think the only player who kind of circumvented that was Payet, but he was world class in more than one area. So I think it's a really frustrating game to come off the back of, because we should have had 3 points, and you could feel the atmosphere in the stadium, what little atmosphere there was yesterday, completely just sucked away when we conceded the goal.
I just think that when we're playing this midfield three, there is very little we can do other than what we try and do is big switch to the wings, or we rely on a moment of madness from someone like Kudus, someone like Bowen, someone like Paqueta to break through, because there just isn't that outlet at the moment. And I think that's our biggest issue, is because, like I mentioned before, we're not playing an 8 really. We're playing, Ward-Prowse will come deep alongside Alvarez to collect the ball. It's all very safe. It's all very, switch to one side. Again, Ward-Prowse played a very good pass out to Kufal for the goal, but it's still not like it's not a persistent thing or consistent thing from us to unlock defenses in that way. And it relies on someone like Paqueta, as we saw in the second half, as he played one over the top to Emerson, to do that. And you look at the runners that are often coming in behind or trying to make that movement. It's coming from fullbacks. It's coming from Kufal and Emerson. And, that midfield is very stagnant. I just think our whole game would go up another level if we had someone like that. And we also had a natural winger out on the left-hand side, because, once Palace scored their equaliser, which we're going to touch on in a second, playing Ward-Prowse left wing for 20, 30 minutes of a football match when you've got Cornet on the bench, even Ben Rama on the bench, who's been very poor, is crazy to me. Or, even someone like Kudus could go out onto the left and you bring Mubama on up top. There's so many different things you can do in that situation before putting Ward-Prowse left wing. And this is my issue with Moyes. I'm not going to be slagging Moyes off right now, saying Moyes out, because we've actually had a very good start to the season. The football has been pretty poor recently. Completely agree with that. But, we've still been getting the results, to be honest. And as people often say, it is a results-based business. But, the more we continue with this, the less likely it is that we're going to keep getting these results. But that's my biggest pet peeve with Moyes, is that he will shoehorn players in if he thinks that, he needs to keep them on the pitch. And that's what we've seen with someone like Ward-Prowse. He could have easily taken him off, to be honest, yesterday, put Paqueta deeper into his position and brought on someone like Cornet, because Palace weren't offering much at all going forward. We needed to push on and win the game and take some risks. But then it comes back to, okay, we've been so good at set pieces. We've got that threat. We need to keep him on. Well, no, it shouldn't be like that. It should be a game by game basis. It shouldn't be based on the fact that Souček and won the winner against Burnley or whatever. And we've been getting some good set pieces. It shouldn't be like that. We've still got someone like Bowen who can take a set piece. And how many corners did we score before Ward-Prowse came in? It's still quite high. So I would rather we take a chance in that moment and assess the actual opposition we're playing against, because like Mike has mentioned in the chat here, we really did fail to take advantage of that Palace high line at times, and make runs in behind. And our midfield just has no dynamic ball carrier, which makes us very easy to telegraph and block. And that's very true. It's very sideways and out to the wing with West Ham at the moment, and it's just so easy to defend, really, unless we have that moment of magic, which we saw with Kudus in the first half, when he kind of dribbled past a few players and made the space to beat that first press. Or, when someone like Paqueta is playing it over the top to Emerson, or we're putting crosses into the box for Bowen's header. So for me, there's a lot of stuff to work on, to improve, and for Moyes to wake up to, because we can't continue playing like this. I think we've got enough options on the bench to be playing, better players at certain times for certain matches in certain scenarios. But yeah, what did you make of the issue that keeps coming up, Sloth, which is conceding between that 45-minute and 60-minute mark in the second half? It's happened on maybe 5, 6, 7 occasions already this season. Obviously happened again through a Mavropanos mistake, as he passed it backwards straight into Edouard's path, and he kind of slotted it home to make it 1-1. So what do you put that down to, that lapse of concentration between that 15-minute period?
I can only attribute it to the halftime team talks. Whatever's going on at halftime is clearly not having an impact. Like it should be the time, if we concede 3 or 4 goals, then you go onto the training pitch and you go, look, something's wrong. We are conceding time and time again at the same periods in a match. What's it take to fix it? And it just looks like there's no addressing of the issue. It was a hospital pass, and it was terrible possession play. Like again, I'm going to go back to it, but we keep playing this stupid keep ball narrative at the back, but we pass it behind our centre backs, and then we're surprised when we're under pressure. And Agued is good on the ball. Mavropanos is good on the ball. When you keep trying to play this stupid game of allowing their strikers to come and run at you, you're going to get caught out. I don't care how good you are, at some point you're going to get caught out. Virgil van Dijk gets caught out in those positions, and any top centre-back will eventually get his pocket picked. It's just a case of the pass is terrible, and I don't know what is going on in the dressing room. If we continually concede at that point after the whistle's gone in this second half, what decision making needs to be implemented so that stops? You can always, if these were wonder goals and we were conceding a 30-yard screamer or something like that, you'd go, hold your hands up, fair enough. But they're not. They're not good goals that we're conceding. Yesterday's goal was an embarrassment as a centre back. It was ridiculous, and we deserved it because we gave them chances in the first half. We deserved to concede, and I was almost hoping that we'd have conceded the first goal because that's what it tends to take us to wake up. But we conceded, and we just didn't really. There was no impetus. There was no change on the bench. Palace kind of got their tail up for a little bit, and then they seemed to tucker themselves out. But it was just, there was no answers. There was no one looking to take the game by the scruff of the neck other than Kudus. And when you see that, and when you see someone like Paqueta, who, look, he played a great ball through for Emerson, which Emerson should have done a lot better with, but you can't just rely on players doing one moment of magic or performing one moment of magic in a match or a second half to save your bacon. It doesn't work like that. And it was, Paqueta is I don't want to be too hard on him, but he deserves it after that performance yesterday, and Moyes deserves it for his just lack of any sort of impact on the game. It was quite frankly cowardly managing, because if you look at that and you don't think anything needs to change, what are you doing?
It was glaringly obvious yesterday. There's sometimes there's a tight game, you don't want to change it, but yesterday was not that moment. There was so much opportunity to change things. Bowen was absolutely poor. He should have been taken off, and he's still coming back from that injury, so it was a risk to keep him on for that long. We've already seen that he can't really play striker. It's not his position. So again, trying to play him there for 90 minutes. Obviously, he did try and change it in the second half of putting him out on the right, and we instantly saw a difference. But then you like you mentioned there, it's relying on someone like Kudus or Paqueta to unlock a team or produce a moment of magic, or it's a set piece. There isn't really, okay, we're going to continue playing the way we play, maybe make a couple of changes, go a bit more attacking, and open that Crystal Palace team up, because we could have opened them up a lot easier than we did. We made it very difficult for ourselves. Yes, we had the chances to win the match, and we probably should have won the match based on those chances. But, we had 9 shots at home to Crystal Palace, who, had a lot of injuries going into this match, and a lot of issues. Should be doing much better than that. We should be doing a lot better, considering we had, are probably one of our highest possessions of the season, with like 54 or 55%, which tells you a lot of, you know, how we play. But, you know, it's just really frustrating because it was left to, I mean, I don't even remember. I'm just going to take a look here for when Fornals came on. 89th minute. You know, it took him to the 89th minute to take Alvarez off and bring on Fornals. And, you know, as Mike's saying here in the chat, he claimed he wanted the team to take risks, you know, in his interview. But from his point of view, he didn't take any risks himself. You know, he did not take any risks at all. And it took till the 90th minute to try and unlock that defense. And, you know, Fornals, to his credit, did actually really well when he came on, when he had like 5 minutes to play. So imagine what he could have done in 20 minutes, 25 minutes, along with Cornet out on the left with fresh legs, Mubama given a chance up front, even someone like Ben Rama in the middle, or wherever he wants to play him. There were options, and we bottled it. You know, he bottled it in that situation. And I personally think it's because of what we've had in the past few weeks of the success of Souček and Ward-Prowse, and he's too scared to take them off because, you know, set pieces or Souček goals.
Part of me thinks that, but then again, I just don't believe that if you're a professional footballer, you should be able to pick out someone with a cross, let alone a 6 foot bloody 12 check guy in the middle of the box. You should be able to pick him out. Like, if you're relying that much on James Ward-Prowse, well, that is such a worry, in my opinion. And it's nothing to do, like, it's not a criticism of James Ward-Prowse, but it's just, how can you be that reliant on someone to do that? I mean, look, we did score a second goal. Obviously, it was rightly disallowed because Souček's massive frame gets in the way of Johnston, who, you know, I do think there's a bit of bullshit. Sorry, I do think there's a bit of nonsense about this interfering with play law. I don't really see how him moving toward the ball interferes that much. You know, if someone's hit a shot from outside the area and someone goes to move towards it, well, I just kind of think that's a bit of football. That's part of football. If it deflects and ricochets off someone, or if you get your toe on it, like, yeah, if you stood right in front of the keeper, obviously that's very different. But it was disallowed by the letter of the law, rightly so. But I just kind of think it wasn't.
Yeah, no. It was frustrating, wasn't it? Frustrating.
And you know, it came from Kudus just playing a ball in, and it's the kind of thing that if that goal stands, or if that goal is scored and Souček doesn't go for it, then suddenly people go, oh, well, we got 3 points. We've got the bogey team out of the way. But it doesn't detract from the fact that was a really poor performance, and there was a lot that can be worked on. You know, even if just a case of making a substitution before the 89th minute. Yeah. Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you utilizing the squad depth when we have so many games coming up? What are you doing when you aren't trying to ease the workload on the squad? It's so frustrating. And look, I understand that these are professional footballers and they should be fit enough to play multiple games in a week. But why aren't you trying to ease the workload on them? And I just...
It's not even that to me. It's the fact that we had players that could impact the game or change the game in what was very stagnant and very stale. And, you know, you mentioned it there, the atmosphere not being great. I'm not going to sit there and blame the stadium for that, because we've had some very good atmospheres in the stadium, and it's up to us to create that atmosphere. And, you know, even at 1-0 up, it was pretty poor. But again, it's that kind of same thing of the philosophy isn't there to keep going and attacking and keep showing that, you know, playing someone like Crystal Palace at home is the perfect opportunity to be more attacking, you know, be more impetus with your play. But, you know, it wasn't to be. We drew 1-1. We now sit 9th in the league. I think we're on 21 points from 14 games. So, you know, we had a really good start to the season, and we've started to drop off a bit, got a couple wins back, and now we drew. We said we needed 3 wins from 3. We've got 2 wins from 3 from those last few games in the Premier League, and 1 draw. So 7 out of 9. Again, not good enough for me. We should have been beating Crystal Palace in that fashion on Sunday. So couple of questions in the chat. Ballon Dawson, too many midfielders. Who gets dropped? For me, if we're gonna make this is like in game for me. If we're gonna need to make a change, you either bring off Alvarez and play Souček DM and bring in, drop Paqueta deeper to play alongside Ward-Prowse, and then bring on someone like a Benrahma, Fornals, Cornet, whoever you want to bring on in attack, or even if Antonio's fit. If it's going to be a different one, there's just so many options. For me, I don't know about you, Sloth, but my perfect midfield three in my head with the players we've got, not considering form, is playing Alvarez DM alongside Paqueta, who plays slightly deeper, with Kudus as the number 8. That's how I see it. That's how I'd like to see us try and play. But again, with Ward-Prowse and Souček in the team and how they've been with form and reliance from Moyes, I don't think I'll ever see that, to be honest. But what about you? What's your kind of ideal midfield three if you could pick from those players that we've got?
I think it pretty much matches with yours, Paqueta, Alvarez, and yeah, you could play Kudus in there, but I do like seeing him just take players on. And if you want to play him as a centre forward while Antonio's out, then yes, he doesn't like playing there, but if it's only while injuries are hindering you, then put him there for a little bit. It's frustrating because, as I said many times, Souček is a blunt instrument and he will get you goals. So for me, I'd probably play him, Souček, Alvarez and Paqueta, and I just have that sort of big physical midfield, but a player who can actually, get on the ball and do something with it. And if you can't deliver a set piece as a professional footballer, James Ward-Prowse is fantastic, but we don't often win free kicks that he can actually utilize. And if you're relying on him to take your set pieces solely for his quality of delivery, then that to me worries me when you have the players of such quality like Paqueta, like Kudus, like Bowen, who can do things and create, but they're hindered almost when that midfield is so stacked and bloated with players who don't really fit a system or an ethos and kind of hinder each other.
I would just like to see Kudus play in that number 8 role where he's able to, I think he works hard enough defensively, and I think he can impose himself enough. And he actually is probably one of the most underrated parts of his game is that kind of defensive work rate for the team. So I think actually playing him in that central role, that also allows Bowen to then go back out on the right. Obviously, we would need to, heavily improve on the striker position and left wing position if we were to play in that way. And in that case, I do slightly feel for Moyes with how he's trying to, play Paqueta left wing, or trying to shoehorn Bowen at striker. Because, you look at what we've been doing before that, it hasn't been great. You've got Danny Ings, who's the other option at striker. You had Mikel Antonio, who's obviously injured and had his issues with form recently. And then you've got the left wing position where Benrahma's been playing. He's been playing very poor. You've got Fornals again in and out of the team and hasn't really shown much other than yesterday. And then you've got Cornet, who's just not there for Moyes. So do you feel for him a little bit?
No, I don't sympathise with someone who hasn't brought in a striker for multiple windows just because they don't seem to be able to find someone who fits the Antonio mould. Despite the fact
they did try and get Moffey in January.
Yeah, but apparently that was much more of a Mark Noble decision, what we're led to believe. And look, Moffey's fantastic. I was shouting his praises and saying he's exactly one of the types of players that we should be getting in who fits that mould. But the problem is that there are loads of strikers out there who fit that mould. You look at Boniface, who's just gone to Leverkusen, and he was someone that we were championing and shouting about on this very channel.
Yeah.
He went for under 20 million quid. We sold Scamacca and we didn't get anyone in. Now, why that was is debatable. It's up in the air. But the fact that we're not even utilising Cornet and the pace that he brings, whether or not Moyes rates him, it's irrelevant.
That's a big one.
If you don't understand that pace is going to get you results on that left wing, and you see him get an assist in the midweek. I know it's a very poor level of opposition.
It's a good assist.
Yeah, it's a good assist. And if you do not play him, despite the fact that you have you're fitting square pegs into round holes. That's
I mean, if he's going to play, I mean, like I said, Ward-Prowse left wing yesterday for 20 to 30 minutes. It's unacceptable. You know, you don't do that. You know, regardless of whether you want to keep him on the pitch, you're just limiting yourself in that aspect, and you're just hindering the whole team just to try and keep an individual on the pitch. And you know, what is that going
to? I don't have any sympathy at all from this. He's had the money and he's had the resources to go and get the players that he wants.
Yeah.
And he's simply not playing a number of the players that he has because of this myth that he doesn't trust them. Yeah. Now, look, I know it was apparently the fact that he spent a lot of time with his own medical team as opposed to the club's medical team. That's apparently why they've fallen out. That's just a rumor. So, you know, I don't want to give too much weight to it. But if you are that petty that you are holding a grudge against someone for that, and you are hindering the team because of that, for me, that's absurd.
I think the big one is, I think that is the big one, isn't it? Cornet not getting the chances to play because, you know, he is a naturally fast winger. You know, he was actually putting in some good performances last season before his injury. He actually made, you know, a pretty decent impact off the bench in a couple of games. Obviously, the Chelsea goal that got disallowed. I remember Everton away, he came on and played pretty well. So it's just giving these players the chance. And I think, you know, when you're keeping someone like Ward-Prowse on at left wing over someone like Cornet and not giving them minutes, it just damages the confidence. It really does. It, you know, you would lose your faith and trust as a player in what the manager believes, whether the manager believes in you or not. If I'm Cornet sat there, you know, for the season that's, you know, how the season's panned out, why would he not be looking to move away in January? You know, he was a player that scored 9-10 goals for a very poor Burnley side only a couple of years ago. You know, he's played for Lyon. You know, he's got goals in him. He's got pace, like you mentioned. He was creating a lot of assists in the build-up in Europa Conference League last year against, you know, limited opposition, you know, at the best, but still doing the business. Look, and I think he would be a good option.
I'm not going to pretend that he's Cristiano Ronaldo or, you know, that he's the best player in the world.
We don't know.
Well, we do know. Let's face it, he's not Cristiano Ronaldo. But it's a case of, I do genuinely believe that if we'd managed to buy a striker and put some money towards that, and we utilise the players we have, like Cornet out on the wing, if we had actually implemented them more across the season at that 70-minute mark, we'd be 9 points better off. We wouldn't have lost to Everton, that's for sure, if we actually had a striker who could finish.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be so heavily reliant on this myth that Antonio makes us look so much better whenever he plays, because look, he does link up very well with others, and he is.
I don't think it's a myth. I don't think that was a myth. I think that was a valid point for a long time. It's just this season.
I'm not saying that he isn't good, but there is a myth that we look so much better than him, and it's often used as a point to say, this is why we don't buy strikers, because he is so good. But my counterpoint to that would be, well, if he was so good and we shouldn't be looking at other strikers because he is so, he'd also be scoring 20 goals a season. But he doesn't do that. And I'm not attacking him anyway.
No, I agree.
Too critical. But what I'm saying is there's tons of players out there who give you that option and give you the work rate and give you that ability. But they can be utilised and they need to be rotated. What's to say that if Moffey had come in that January period, he isn't still behind Antonio in the pecking order? That's what worries me, because I genuinely think there is an issue in terms of the manager having an impact on games and his lack of substitutions, decision making impacting that. And it's not me saying, oh, Moyes out and it's just saying this needs to be addressed, because it does hinder us. It is causing us to drop points, and yesterday was a prime example of that.
I want to touch on a subject which is about excitement of going to watch West Ham and, being a West Ham supporter right now, because there's other channels out there right now who have, very openly stated that they hate the football. They don't enjoy going to the stadium. They don't enjoy the experience of Moyes football. And they don't want to watch West Ham until a new manager comes in and something changes. Someone like here, West Ham United Scout as well, saying Fornals being the first sub to come on and win the game at home. How can we as a fan base get excited about that? What is your thoughts on the whole Moyes situation in regards to, being exciting or, just your general entertainment as a fan? Where do you currently sit on the whole situation?
Look, I said the bloke who sits behind me, Jeremy. If he's watching, shout out Jeremy. He's a great man, and he always makes me laugh. But I said to him, because we were talking about this negative style play and how a lot of fans don't like it, I will take us playing the dirtiest, most boring football for a full season if it means we win the Europa League, if it means we get that ground in place to push forward as a club. However, at the moment, we are just playing boring football, and the lack of decision making on the bench is what's hindering us. The lack of making a substitute to go and kill a game off and win it is, for me, that's unforgivable because it's so frustrating. And I do find the football frustrating. I don't buy that, I would never not go and watch West Ham. I'll watch us play in League Two if I pray we don't ever end up in League Two, but I would go and watch us play in League Two. I'm not saying I'm a better fan than you or anything like that. I don't think it's right that you don't support the club because you don't like the manager. Look, if they're a bad person or something like that, I can kind of understand that. But you support the club through thick and thin, and look, the exciting football is very, very thin on the ground at the moment, and I sympathise with that. But there's a lot to be done, and while you have Danny Ings stealing a living at 125 grand a week at the club, you have Cresswell stealing a living at 70 grand a week, who doesn't even want to be here. When you have Ogbonna and you've offered him a new contract, despite the fact that there are lots of other centre-backs out there who could have come in and offered something. And you have this element of shoehorning players in. I get the frustration. But for me, the modern football has become so money-driven, and the importance of safety can often force decision making. And I think that's kind of where Moyes has always been as a manager. He gets you safe, and he will unless you're Sunderland, but he gets you safe, and he will get you in and around that sort of 7th, 10th, maybe even 5th or 6th or 4th at some point. But he will never get you progressing beyond that. And I don't mean that with any disrespect to the manager, because look, to have managed as many games as he has at the top level, you have to be a good manager. But the fact is that his impact on games is wavering. And I just think that when you have this element of trusting players and allowing yourself to shoehorn those players in because you trust them, it hinders the overall system you play. And I'm never going to stop supporting West Ham. I would, as I said, if it means we win things, I will take the dirtiest Mourinho parking the bus style of football if we win games. But I bet you if Mourinho had been managing that side yesterday, as dirty and dull as it may have been, he gets a 2-1 win from that, because he goes absolutely ballistic at the defenders if they concede that goal. and he then decides to change things up going forward when they need it, and we just didn't do that.
Yeah, I am pretty split on the Moyes situation. I would say, even as a fan, when Moyes, given his second stint at the club, to claim that, as a fan, that he's provided us with probably the most exciting moments we've had as West Ham fans for how long? Other than that Upton Park season where, it was a very exciting season. Pyatt was doing incredible things. We were close to the top four. What David Moyes has done is, get back-to-back Europa League and Europa Conference Leagues, win a European competition. We're now again in a position where we can push for the top 8, top 7 and try and get in Europe again next season. We've qualified again for the Europe knockouts. And, you even look at, again, the football isn't always entertaining or, front foot like an Arsenal or Man City, keep, dominating possession, passing teams to death like Brighton. But we're still scoring pretty, how many games have we scored a goal in this season? I think we've only not scored a goal in maybe one game this year, in this season. And, we're on 24 goals from 14 games. It could be higher, it could be a lot less. We've only scored 4 less than Tottenham. And they're labelled as one of the most attacking, front foot branded pressing teams in the league right now. If you look at the press of Postecoglou, it's not that far apart in terms of how we've actually performed from the goals perspective. Yes, again, players like Bowen have overperformed and we've scored, we've outperformed our XG, but we've still scored the goals, and, even looking at David Moyes' first season where we got 6th, I think we only scored 1 or 2 less goals than the Upton Park season, but our defense was better. I just don't understand. I don't understand the amount of people that hate David Moyes and, absolutely despise what he's done for this football club. Because where were we 4 years ago, 5 years ago? Like, please just have a reality check on how we were doing when we had Slaven Bilic as we went into the London Stadium that first season. David Moyes came in, saved us. That was it. Thank you. We then brought in Pellegrini to be this attacking style, possession-based team, exciting. Didn't work out again. We spent a lot of money in that period as well. We've then resulted back to David Moyes, who, on very short notice in that COVID period, came in January, kept us up in the COVID bit, and then the next season literally flipped it on its head after a few sign-ins and got a 6th. In one of the most exciting seasons I think I've ever seen, probably the most exciting season I've seen at West Ham. How many 3-2s, 3-alls, just it was really exciting, even not being at the games. It was just very exciting, fun football to watch. And, what we've seen this season, I think, is slightly adapting to that. And what you said there is very correct. And that's Moyes' biggest downfall. I feel like he holds himself back at times. When we have options on the bench to change things, it's there. Take the risk, do it, because being stubbornly risk avert will only get you so far. And I think Moyes has seen that throughout his career. And, that's what stopped us from probably getting top 4 on that occasion. And again, we got top 7 the next season and we got to the semi-final of the Europa League. But again, it was taking those risks in the Europa League semi-final that could have got us through against Frankfurt. But again, look at the teams he's beat in his time at West Ham. He's knocked out Sevilla. He's knocked out Lyon. We've beat Man City on penalties in the cup. We've beat Liverpool. We've beat Chelsea. We've beat Arsenal in the cup. We've beat Spurs. The list goes on and on and on. We've had some very, very good moments with David Moyes here. This season, we know it's probably going to be his last. His contract's up. So instead of just being so negative towards everything, because why would you do that? We're currently 9th. We're on 21 points. I think we're 5 points off Newcastle in 6th. It's not a drastic situation at all. Yes, we should have beat Palace, but there's going to be games like that where we don't win. We also just beat Burnley and we also just beat Forest. So it's 7 points from 9. There's a way to look at positives as well as this. Yes, there were a lot of negatives from that Palace performance and opportunities to win the match. But again, Moyes didn't tell Mavropanos to pass him the ball and play it through 1-on-1. That wasn't Moyes' thinking. Yes, we should have probably been 2 or 3-0 up by the time that happened. But again, Moyes didn't ask Souček to get in the way of Kudus' ball in. It's like everything is pinned straight onto Moyes. And I guarantee you, if we'd have won yesterday with Bowen's header in the 90th minute, people would be saying, oh, Moyes starting to turn it around. 3 wins from 3. We're now, only a couple of points off 6th. it's getting there. You know, it's such a reactionary fan base at times. That's what frustrates me the most. But yeah, end of rant.
Yeah. I think unfortunately that is football these days, because you've got social media and it's such a big part of fandom. You know, it's ironic me saying that, but football is all about reactions. And I think, you know, we kind of mentioned Postecoglou there, and I think the difference is Postecoglou learns from that game, and potentially, you know, if he's in the same situation in a month's time, 1-1 with 30 minutes to go, he makes a raft of changes. You know, you can point to the Chelsea game where they absolutely got pummeled, and his philosophy, you know, is what got them that result. You know, that is what hindered him. But he'll learn from that and he'll go forward and he'll change things and adapt it. However, that philosophy is still in place for it, and that's where I think Moyes is somewhat held back by his philosophy, because it's about shoehorning players and getting the best 11 onto the pitch, as opposed to playing a style of football or going for a win when you have the chance. And look, I think I mean, I've watched West Ham play some absolutely turgid football, but this football isn't anywhere near as bad as some of the crap that we've had to watch down the years.
Yeah.
And anyone who says it is has either got short memory or they don't remember just how bad we were at times. And, you know, if you had to watch Harita Alunga play, then
put some respect on his name.
If you had to watch Julian Faubert play, and
he went to Real Madrid.
Yeah, well, we all know that was an accident. But I mean, if you had to watch some of the players we have seen in a West Ham shirt, and you still think this is as bad as that, then I just it kind of baffles.
No, we've had some horror moments, and you know. We got a comment here from Melissa saying, yes, we complain because we know we can do better.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. You have all the right. You know, I was screaming it yesterday saying, make a change to Moyes. I was absolutely livid with how we didn't pick up 3 points. Completely agree. But take a step back for a moment and take away that, you know, reaction or emotion from that Crystal Palace game. Just look at the last 3 years of West Ham. Go through our fixtures and go through our results and go through what we've achieved in that 3-year period since Moyes came in. It is unbelievable what we've achieved. And then people are saying Moyes has spent, you know, a lot of money. We should be doing better. 100%. But he's also lost Rice this summer. And how imperative and key has he been to this squad in the last 3 years? You know, we're still trying to adapt to that. You know, Alvarez coming in. We had a good start and we're still trying to figure it out. Yes, Moyes needs to do better now. And absolutely, he needs to be doing better with the options we've got, because I think we've got enough players to be making changes in matches like yesterday and changing things up and not playing Ward-Prowse left wing. That's 100% on Moyes, and he'll have those moments and he'll continue to do those moments because that's the type of manager he is, which is why West Ham fans are very frustrated. And I think the majority are, you know, looking for a change in the summer, including myself. I think the best direction is Moyes sees out his contract this year. We do as best as we can, and then we rebuild with a long-term project like Tim Steidten bringing in a manager similar to what Arsenal did with Arteta. It's going to take 2 to 3 seasons, but I want to see that progression in style or, you know, identity, and move away from what people maybe associate as boring football. But you can't not sit here and look at what Moyes has done and think, wow, that's incredible. You know, we've won a European trophy. People say, oh, we should have won it. Why does that stop us from celebrating it? Why does that stop that being a success for Moyes? It's like, just because City should win the Champions League, does that mean they shouldn't celebrate winning the Champions League? No, it doesn't work like that. He still won it. He still achieved it. So for me, I'm very much annoyed at, you know, the amount of people that are absolutely fuming with David Moyes. I think it's over the top. I think it's not needed. But I think he should be doing better. And, you know, there is pressure on him to keep getting these results because, you know, Crystal Palace at home, Everton at home, they're matches you should be winning on paper. But then again, we've beat Chelsea, we've beat Brighton. You know, there's games where on paper we should have lost and we've won. So as long as we continue our overall good form going into December now, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Just going back to Melissa's comment, you know, every single football fan or most clubs in the country, they're all going to be saying we could be doing better. You know, look at Chelsea fans. They're probably going to be saying, look at this squad. We should be doing much better. And, you know, even Newcastle fans, we you know, if we hadn't had our injury impacts, or in the sheer number of injuries they had this season, we should be doing better. You know, we should be doing better to stop that. Every single football club has something that they think they could be doing better, or they should be doing better. But the fact is that I don't think anyone should be forgetting where we were a few years ago. And I'm not saying that, you know, Moyes is the Messiah, but he's done a very good job, and it would be disingenuous for me to say that he hasn't. And, you know, that's someone who would like to see us play more attacking football. However, I acknowledge that it's getting results, and all I ask is that in January, maybe he takes a little step back from the transfer side of things. He has an input, but he takes a little step back, and maybe lets Tim choose a few more of the players coming in, so that we can see if he progresses forward. What would be the final nail in the coffin for me is if he just decides he doesn't want to play them because they're not his signings. And then that's a bigger issue. And that is something that should be a sackable offence, in my opinion. But
I think for me, what's annoying the fan base, and you know, it's annoying me as well. I will say that is the comments that he's making after matches. You know, after the match yesterday against Crystal Palace, he said, "Well, in the last few seasons, we actually haven't done too well against Crystal Palace in this fixture, so maybe a point's a pretty good result." Doesn't work like that, Moyes. It really doesn't work like that. So that sort of comment is frustrating to hear. And yeah, absolutely, we should be complaining, or, you know, feeling annoyed by those types of comments, as well as the comment as saying, you know, wanting more creativity or something like that, when, you know, your creativity is staring you in the face and you're trying to play Ward-Prowse left wing. Absolutely. I'm sat here now, 24 hours after the match, still fuming about that. You know, it was 3 points that we threw away. But again, we go again. You know, we've got a massive game against Spurs on Thursday. We then go to Fulham away on Sunday. You know, there's so many games to kind of keep it going. And, you know, we have to appreciate, you know, we're in the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup, as we go to Liverpool this month as well. We've qualified for the knockouts Europa League next year, as we go into March. So again, we have the opportunity to go on a very exciting run in Europe again. Nothing stopping us from doing that, because I think we've got the players and the fundamentals to do it. You know, they've got the experience now as well of playing in Europe, of a couple of seasons. So still lots to look forward to, you know, in the FA Cup come January. You know, there's so much football to be played. I'm not going to get too hung up on a draw against Crystal Palace, because our form before that's been pretty good. Yes, we're winning matches that we should be winning, still winning them, not convincingly by any stretch, but we're still winning the matches, and, you know, he's been getting the results. So yes, there's a lot more that Moyes needs to do, from a tactical point of view, from a substitution point of view, from a flexibility point of view. And, you know, we absolutely acknowledge that. But as well, it's just the way he will say things after a match. It kind of goes against what he's saying. And yeah, as Mike's saying here, his biggest frustration is that his words are consistently juxtaposed by his actions and that of his team. Without the results, the football is turgid, and the flashes of brilliance is hard to sustain excitement. Yep, correct. It is hard to kind of sustain that excitement when it's flashes or moments. But again, like you said, Slough, you would take absolutely torrid football if it meant that we won that Europa League. And I think every West Ham fan last year as well would not trade the Europa Conference League for finishing, you know, 7th or 6th in the Premier League instead. So, I mean, I may be wrong, but I personally wouldn't be doing that.
I would take, if we can get revenge on Liverpool in the Europa League final, I would take the most boring 90 minutes of football I've ever seen, and then I would take the worst bouncing in off the arse of Souček finish in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, just before the whistle's about to go. I would take it bouncing off his arse and going in the goal for us to beat Liverpool in the final. I would love that. First of all, because Liverpool fans wouldn't have to travel very far to get home, but also it would just be fantastic to get revenge on that FA Cup final defeat. I would do horrendous things to see that happen. So I'm not going to pretend that, you know, I'm a fan who has to demand this West Ham way, but I think in the name of results and trophies and things that we could potentially win, I'll take liberty. I just want consistency and a bit more of it in terms of his decision making and attitude towards the game. You know, if his comments don't mirror the things that he does, and that's what does irk me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's a couple of comments in chat that I can't put in because they're swear words, but I'll read one of them without it. He says, anyone who backs this manager is clueless. How can they be happy seeing this rubbish? Frankie, stop sugarcoating stuff. Sorry, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I've openly said, even in this stream, that I'd be looking to move Moyes on this season after this season. It's not a long-term thing now. I think he's done what he can do with this side. And again, if we go on and win the Europa League this season with the way we play, I don't care. I really don't care. And we're still in a pretty promising position in the league. And, you know, we could be in a lot worse positions. Last year, I understand it more when we were, you know, very much really poor in the league and, you know, battling relegation. We even said that Moyes should probably have been sacked at certain points of the year. But, you know, it's been a it's been a pretty positive start to the year, despite some of the recent football. So I'm not going to sit here and slate Moyes and say, you know, he's a dinosaur when he's absolutely done wonders for this football club in the last 3 years. And I'm not even his biggest fan. And I'm saying that. So, yeah, is what it is. Opinions are opinions, but we've just hit an hour. We're probably going to wrap it up there, guys. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's tuned into the stream. Thank you for everyone for their comments. And yeah, we go into that Spurs match on Thursday, probably less optimistic than we could have been if we picked up a win. But, you know, it's that big derby for both teams. So I'm sure it will be an entertaining watch. And hopefully we can pick up 3 points as we have done there in the previous, I think in 3 years ago when they first moved in there. So yeah, plenty to try and stay positive about. Lots of football coming thick and fast. I think a game every few days, the whole of this month. So this channel is going to be busy. And yeah, thank you all for your comments. Make sure to leave a like on the live stream if you did enjoy, as that massively helps us out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. And if you want to come on and have your say, let us know by DM on Twitter at Babbling Irons, and we'll get you on for one of these shows so you can have your opinion and give you a platform to speak as well. So, Sloth, that's going to be it for today. Not much else to say. A poor result against Crystal Palace, but plenty to still be positive about and plenty to take into that game against Spurs on Thursday night, which we'll be doing a preview for, which should be out Wednesday. So make sure to check that out. And yeah,
I'll also be doing a big thread tomorrow on Championship, well, mostly homegrown players who I think West Ham should be looking at. It's mostly attacking players, so it might be something that is of interest to people who, particularly left wingers, who are, you know, looking at exciting football, or someone who can have an impact, increase our homegrown numbers, and also just maybe get a few goals. As we know, the Championship market has been kind to us in recent years.
Give us a teasing name, Sloth. Give us one name for that thread.
I mean, my favourite player at the moment in the Championship is Philigen. So, yeah.
Nice. There you go. Make sure to go check out the thread because, yeah, Sloth's put a lot of hard work into it. And yeah, it's a very entertaining thread, and there's a lot of good opportunities for us to look in the Championship market. So yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Babbling Irons if you don't already, as it will be on there. And yeah, that's going to be all for today. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and Sloth, until next time.
Come on, you irons.